Hello, hello. So, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to talk about my experience with God through my whole life and all that. I don't know what to say. I hope God, you know, He directs me in the right things to say, but I don't know. So please just take it with a grain of salt. I'm hoping maybe that my experiences, my like what I've been through and all that will show someone that, either that it's never too late to give up. It's yes, it's hard and all that. Like, but no matter what, God will always love you. Alright, so let's just start from the beginning. So, whenever I was about, let's say, maybe 6 years old, I don't know how old. It was probably, yeah, maybe 6 years old is probably when I first started, like just doing bad stuff, not listening to my parents, rebelling or whatever you want to call it. And my first memory of doing something really bad was probably whenever I was around 6. And what happened was, I was, or I remember my uncle and my dad. And the thing was that my uncle used to live with us, so I always saw him, all that. But he was always over, and they went to go smoke. And me being 6 years old, or whatever age I was like, okay, I see cigarettes, I'm like, ooh, what are those? Or whatever. I remember I grabbed them off the table. I went into my room, into my closet, lit one up, and of course my dad found out. That was probably when it started. Now, growing up, I never stopped. Like, even now, I hate that I have this thing, but it's just like, I can't help it sometimes. And I don't want to say this out of, like, whatever. I just want to ask you, if you are watching this, could you please pray for me to help me stop it, you know? But, anyways, been smoking since I was, like, really young. Now, where I live, I have, like, basically no one lives, like, just two two steps, to the next house. Everyone, I live like outside the county where basically for like 5 acres of land, almost everyone has at least 5 acres or whatever. And so whenever I was growing up, I was being a kid. I was going out, hanging out with people, like friends, you know, not doing anything bad for say, like maybe I was, I don't really remember. But I remember my mom would have to call the neighbor because I'd go into their house, and I'd be, just like we'd be hanging out, whatever, and it'd be like night, and I wouldn't realize. And so they would have to call the neighbor, all that. So I got a phone at like 8 years old, and that's why, all that. And I don't blame my parents about any of this. I believe they were just trying to give me the best opportunity, and I just, you know, I threw that opportunity, made it into bad. But growing up, me being curious, I looked at porn. And seeing that stuff at a young age definitely was not good. Not my parents' fault. Not my parents' fault. Because even after they realized that, I was looking at that stuff, they tried to stop me. They were putting block things or whatever, where if you're under 18, you can't watch it or whatever. Because, like, on my phone, basically, where I would block every website that was like, if you have to be 18 to be on the website, they would basically block every single one, you know. And I would still try and find a way to get past it because I was addicted. Still am. But the thing now is that I see that it's bad. I see that it's not healthy. All that. And luckily, I have God. Now, yes, even saying that, I still fall a bunch, you know. And every time I get back up, or like, is this a thing of like, I'll be on a website or whatever, and in the moment I don't think, I just, like, my body just takes over or whatever. And then afterwards, after, every single time, I always get this feeling of, I wish I could take that back. I wish I could not do it. I don't know if that's good. That could be good. That could be bad. Because what it could be bad. Like, yes, it's good that, I'm being convicted. I'm feeling guilty and all that. And I do tell God, like, every single time after, I'll be like, may not be the second after, which I really need to work on. But anyways, I do tell God eventually. And one of my hardest things is, I remember whenever I first, actually trying to be Christian, I would say, I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to do it again. And I was basically lying. And I hate lying, because growing up, even at a young age, I lied all the time. It was like an instinct, like, like breathing almost, where, like, if I felt like something bad was gonna happen to me, I would lie immediately, just trying not to get in trouble. And I still do it today. I lie, and I don't know why. I mean, it's just something where I can't. It's a thing of, like, I've always had a thing of, like, if if I feel like something bad's gonna happen, I'm gonna lie. That's a big thing for me too, was lying and lust. The two things were lying and lust, I try not to lie, but I still do it. Not as much as I did as a kid, because every single time I would basically lie to get what I wanted, growing up. Or I would lie so my parents wouldn't be mad at me, thinking, oh yeah, if I lie and they believe me, then, I'm a, I'm gonna be good. I'm not gonna get in trouble, all that, which at the time, that was basically my whole thought process. But now, I try my hardest not to lie, even though I still do, and all that, And with lying, it's so easy to do. That's the thing with sin. It's so easy to sin, because even just sitting, not doing nothing, is technically a sin in the sense of laziness. So you will, if you are, because it says that, I believe that if a baby dies or whatever, they're going to be in heaven no matter what. Same thing with people who never even heard of God, because I don't know if that's true, but that's what I believe, because it's the thing of thinking in my mind, why would God send someone to hell if they never got the chance to hear about him and all that, But anyways, you gotta start realizing. That's the biggest thing, is whenever you realize that you're sinning, that, once you realize. Also, if I get off topic and I just, start ranting and then I go into a different topic, I'm sorry. I just, But anyways, like right now, I can't remember. But anyway, here, I'll just go back to line. God says to, basically, if you did it, own up on it. Take the consequence. And yes, it may be hard to do that, It may be hard to take up the consequence, because it may feel like it's, it's in the world. But I promise you, it will be okay if you just trust in God. Okay? No matter what. I can't tell how many times where I've done something bad and I felt like this is the end of the world. But then, I either turn. Like I think that was the biggest thing. Was whenever there was one time where I did something so bad, where it got the cops involved and all that, and I felt like it's over. I'm done. There's no, you know, I'll never I'll never be able to have a normal life. I thought, which, and I remember whenever I went home, because my parents had to pick me up and all that because it was at school. But anyways, I remember when I got home, I grabbed my Bible, went outside, cried, saying, "I'm sorry, Lord. Please forgive me. Please forgive me." And I remember it was like goosebumps and just a warmth of something, Like, it was just like God was telling me it's going to be okay. That, yes, you made a mistake. And yes, you're going to have to own up to that mistake and all that. You're going to have to deal with the consequences, but it'll be okay. And I got through it, I got through it, and right now, it's almost like I'm back to where I don't think, my life is over. Where, it's like my life ain't over. I'm 18, so, that's the biggest thing about me is also being 18. You want to live your life, you want to go have fun, do stuff. And my mind and God knows that. He knows how I think of, I'm young. I want to go do stuff. I want to go have fun and all that. And he comforted me. That's the thing. If you run to God, he will always comfort you. Now, he may not, he, in the sense of like, you may not want to hear it, but it's going to be told. He's going to tell you. Whether you like it or not, he's going to tell you. And that's one of the biggest things with me is I'm stubborn too. So if I'm being told something and I don't like it, I'm going to be stubborn about it. But, yeah. That's a big problem with me is I'm just very stubborn. And I remember when I first got into actually being a real Christian, not just, oh, I'm a real Christian, and then doing whatever I want, and just praying to God, saying, "God, please forgive my sins." I was actually trying to stop the sins, and I'm far from it, from stopping all my sins. I don't even think I even got past the first sin, which actually could bring up the topic of, there's probably just a big sin that is like so bad that, and so addicting to people that, maybe I should try and look at this another way. But yeah, basically growing up, I thought I was a Christian, like I thought, oh yeah, I could just do whatever I want, say, "God, please forgive my sins," and it'd be okay, which is not true. It's not true at all. Now, also, whenever I first started getting into it, it confused me a lot because it's a thing of Christians say, which, and I think it even says in the Bible, but anyways, it says, God knows you're going to sin. But then he also says, if you're with me, you will not sin. And that kind of confused me. I was like, okay, well, what is it? Am I not going to sin, or am I going to sin if I'm a real Christian? And I think I took even though I sin, I'm still a Christian, to heart, to where, like, if I sinned, I was like, oh, well, Christians sin. I didn't really feel bad about it. I was like, man, just every Christian sins. But the difference between a real Christian and what I was doing was that I was like, it's okay. It's whatever. I mean, every Christian sins. I wasn't trying to stop it. The difference is, with a real Christian, they'll see that sin and they'll try and stop it. They may not be perfect. They may fall like a bunch of times back into that sin, even after they think they stopped it. Even after they did stop it, in the sense of, they haven't thought about that sin or anything like that in a long time. They could still fall into it. But the difference between a real Christian and a lukewarm Christian, I'm guessing, what I'm saying is of someone who, says they're Christian but isn't, is that a real Christian, no matter how many times they fall, they'll always try to stop it again, So, like, say, like, I, let's say, like, I was addicted to stealing or whatever, and that's, of course, a sin. But let's say that, and then I finally get out of it. Like, I got that conviction of, man, this is not what I want. I don't want to steal. I want to be with God and all that. And let's say, I stopped stealing. Okay, and then it's like 5 years after that, whenever I stopped stealing and all that, and then I just steal again. The difference between a lukewarm and a real Christian is that, again, as I say, a real Christian will be like, man, they'll realize that they did it again, and they'll, instead of just being like, it's whatever, they'll go straight to God and say, God, please help me. I did it again. I fell into that sin again. Please help me. And a lukewarm Christian will be like, oh, well, it's only one time. I don't need help or whatever. But you always need help. You will always need help, no matter what. And that's with a lot of people, a lot of lukewarm Christians too. They think that, they're saved because they didn't sin a bunch of sins that they used to do. They stopped doing it, and they're like, okay, well, now I'm saved. Because it says, like, once you're saved, you're saved, But the thing is most people think, as soon as I stop sinning, then I'm going to be a real Christian and all that, and I'm saved forever. No. Because a real Christian has a relationship with God. He or she will try and talk, try and put God with everything that you do. And I'm not even, because, 100% sure on this, but I believe that also you could be a real Christian, and if you're just trying, even if you're not putting God with everything you do, if you're trying to put him with a bunch of stuff and all that, where, like, you may play video games, but you don't put God with that, but everything else you put God with that. What you should do is that you should try and figure out a way to put God with it. But just because you didn't doesn't mean that God's gonna be like, oh, well, you didn't put everything with. I didn't get to be in every experience with you in the sense of you were with me and all that. I don't believe that. I believe God will say, hey, before you die or the rapture happens, I believe God will say, hey, listen, all right. He'll show you what you don't put with God, like in the sense of, like, say, gaming, I'll say I was gaming and I never put God with it, it was only just thinking about gaming and me. I was never thinking, oh, well, I wasn't trying to worship God with it too. I don't think he's gonna be mad. He may be like, hey, he'll maybe be mad if it's like a thing of you saying, oh, I'm a Christian, I put God with everything, and then when God shows you that you don't, you're still the same way, of you still don't try. He may be mad at that, but it's a big thing of you need to try. But yeah. You need to try. That's why a big thing I believe with Christianity is you need to try. That's a real big thing, is trying to get with God, trying to be like him, and just always, coming to him with everything, when you're scared, you're happy, you're sad, you're angry, bring it to him. Now, saying that, I'm not saying, just go to God. Like, if you're happy, I believe God would be happy. He wouldn't be mad at you for being like, of course, going to him. Sorry. But also, going to friends, like, say, like, you made, a bunch of money, and you're real happy about yourself. You're like, man, I did that, because you're like, yeah, I did that. I made this money. But you also go, hey, God, thank you, thank you for letting me have the opportunity to make the money and for me taking it and all that. Oh, what's happening? Um, no idea what just happened, but yeah, sorry about that. Basically just giving thanks to God in every way, because that's the thing. Doesn't matter if you're a Satanist, if you're an atheist, a Muslim, whatever. Everything good that everything good that happens to you is because of God. Doesn't matter. I don't care what you say. If something good happens to you, then it's because of God. It's because of God. If you got the job, if you made money, if you finally got that, the person you wanted, it's because God, not because God is all good. You know, He can't do bad. So also, if you ever have anything bad happen to you, don't blame Him. Don't blame Him. It was never His fault. Never His fault. Because the thing is everyone goes through hard times. Everyone. Every single person has gone through something in their own way of it was hard for them. Doesn't matter who you are. And that's not bad. That just makes you human. But basically, you gotta give thanks to God for everything that's good and realize that everything that's bad is not because of Him. Now, it may seem like it's bad to you, but in reality, if you stick through it, like say you have some best friend, you since you were 2 years old, you know, you love them you just love them so much because they're your best friend. And let's say God takes them away. It was God that took them away. I'm not saying that is what happened, but anyways, thing that we don't know is that if that person stayed, they could have made our lives so much worse. So much worse. And made it, like just a dumpster fire or whatever. And God saw that, so He's like, you know what? I'm going to take that person away. I'm going to take that person. They're not going to be around you. You're not going to talk to them. You're not going to do anything with them, because He knows. But you don't. So before you get mad at God, just think, just look at the situation, Look at the situation, see what they're doing with you. Like with some people, it may be that they take them away because the friend is absolute. Just they may say they're Christian, and you're like, oh, well, I can be friends with them because they're Christian too. When in reality, they just say it with their mouth, but they don't try. So God will take that away, so you can be Christian. Because the thing about that is, if you surround yourself around people who are bad, who, all that, you most likely gonna do bad things. I'm not saying you will, like 100% of the time. You're definitely gonna do some bad stuff with them. You're not just gonna be like the perfect Christian whenever all your friends are atheists or Satanists or whatever. You're not. You're not. But always look at the situation, try and figure out why he did it. Don't be like, just don't get angry at him immediately. Be like, oh, why'd you do that, man? Well, God, why'd you take them away? Or why are you making my life so much harder? Think about what he took, or even if it was him, because you don't know. The devil loves deceiving. He loves deceiving. He loves making it look like it's someone else's fault, so he can't take the blame. And that could be what the devil does to you, where he makes it look like it was all God's fault. He makes it look like everything that's bad has happened is because of God. And he's doing that just so you don't get closer to God, because he hates God. He hates him. Now, I'm like, at this moment, I don't know. For all I know, the devil could say, "Yo, God, I'm so sorry." He could be asking for forgiveness, and God would. God would forgive him if he just did what a real Christian does, where they ask for forgiveness too. You know? And, like, the devil will pin everything against God that bad is happening and make it also, because this is the thing, he is an angel. He was an angel, not he was a fallen angel. And the thing about angels are, they're beautiful. Especially him, because he was the one that would worship God. But anyways, he was beautiful, all that. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to make it look like he is the way, in the sense of, hey, he may even be like, yo, he may, like, deceive you in thinking, oh, he will help you get closer to Jesus, because Jesus is the only way, when in reality, no, he won't. He may make it look like it, but he's not. So every time you realize that you're sinning, every time you realize, you're going through something, or you're about to sin, just run to God. And also know this, though, if you don't, just because you don't, doesn't mean that God's going to hate you. Doesn't mean, he's going to be like, man, this dude is just going to use me. Which, if you do it a bunch of times, yes, he's not going to like that. God's not going to like that, because you're going to be abusing his grace. But God knows our pain. He knows, he knows that sometimes we're weak. So weak to the point where we don't even think about him. But he also knows that we love him. No matter what. It doesn't matter if you're a Satanist and you say you hate him. In your heart, you love him so much. It doesn't matter what you are. Because God put that in us. He put he basically made us to where we want to be with him. We want to seek him and all that. And some people usually, they'll hide it with sin. What they do is they sin so much that they just don't think about it, They're too much like... Because the thing about sin is, it's very pleasurable in the moment. But after the moment, it's not. It immediately goes away. Immediately. I can tell me times where I've done something sinning, and I'm like, man, this feels good during the time. And then afterwards, I'm like, it's gone. Immediately gone. Right after it's done, it's gone. Immediately. And I do that a lot. I sin a lot. And then in the moment, I'm like, man, I don't even care about what God thinks. I just will love this feeling. And that really hits me hard, because I don't like that. I don't like that I'm doing that or whatever, And I don't think God's just going to hate me because, sometimes where it's like, I'm like, man, I don't care. This feeling is so good or whatever, getting high, or if I got high, I used to get high a lot. And, if I was like, I don't really care, I'm feeling good in the moment, I don't think God's going to be like, yeah, you can't, I'm taking away your salvation, just because you weren't, you said you hated me, whatever, in the moment, even though, that he may get mad at you and be like, yo, what's happening, like, where a sense of, if I were to get high and, in the moment, I'm like, I don't care, but still say I'm a Christian, he may get mad at that, because he does not like lukewarm Christians, because that's what they are. People who will be like, I'm a Christian, but I'm gonna do whatever I want, and never even try to get close to God or talk to God or anything like that. That's a lukewarm Christian. Or people who, oh yeah, that's basically it. That's what a lukewarm Christian is. A Christian who says with their mouth, I'm a Christian, but then never tries to have a relationship with God or anything like that. And I see a lot around me, a lot of my friends, and I just don't know why I don't help them. Sometimes I think, like, oh, I I don't need to because it's not my job when I'm wrong. But also sometimes I feel like I don't do it because I don't think I can. And the thing about that is I can't tell how many times where because with this video I'm doing right now, I was like, okay, I want to make it. I want to make it. And then I don't know what it was. It was probably just, the devil trying to make me think, oh, I can't do it or whatever. But I just took this video off where I just didn't do it, I was sitting there going, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. Even now, I was watching a video and I was like, okay, I'll just do it right after this video. But luckily I was like, you know what, I'm going to get on my computer and just look at it through YouTube. And I was like, you know what, I need to do something. I need to stop saying, oh, I'm just going to do it later. I need to do it now. I need to do it right now. And that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm just trying to help anyone. Hopefully this helps someone. I really hope it helps you. And if it doesn't, don't think that just because I didn't help you, no one can help you, okay? Because someone can, okay? I remember going to church when I was really young. And we quit because my mom got sick or whatever. But that didn't help me at all. Going to church didn't help me at all. Mostly because I was young, and I was just only learning about Jesus and all that. But it didn't help me. It may help me today, but at the time it didn't. And who knows, it may not even help me today, where if I go to church, it's going to bring me closer to God. It may get me angry, because it's like a thing of, I'm like, man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to church because, it's early in the morning, it's a Sunday, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It may not help. But just because one thing doesn't help doesn't mean that everything won't help, Just because, one thing about God or whatever doesn't help you immediately doesn't mean that you are just gone. It's like there's no hope. There's always hope. And so just if this video doesn't help you, don't give up. Don't think that, oh, I'm never gonna get close to God. Keep on trying, because God wants to be with you. He loves you so much that he doesn't care if you were to tell him, say F you God or whatever, like just curse him out and be the absolute jerk to him. He doesn't care. Yes, he'll care in the moment, but he loves you so much that he'll say, Andy, I forgive you. I forgive you for hating me all your life. Because all he wants is just to love you. That's all he wants. And some people are blind by that. They think, I don't care about your love, God, And what I never understood about Satanists is there's so many signs that God is our God. He's the creator. He's the one who's going to win. But then people out there are like, oh, the devil. In which, actually, I may be getting this wrong, because it could be that Satanists are just like, I don't want to deal with, having to work. They want to be like, oh, I'm just going to, do whatever I want. Because I think that's what it is with Satanism. It's like they believe in doing what they want, only thinking about themselves. And the reason why I think that's bad is because if you see around the world hate, arguments, people just thinking about themselves, they only worry about themselves. Like kings and queens, all they cared about was their own royal family. Where'd that get them? There's no more. I don't see no king or queen. The only one I see is Great Britain, and even at that, it feels more like they're a government than a king and queen or whatever. It doesn't feel like they're an actual king and queen. It feels like they're kind of like the government, or like a president or something like that. Because the only difference between really a king and queen, king and president, is that presidents can leave, kings and queens don't. And the thing about that is, kings and queens, they are like, oh, well, I could do whatever I want, and then I'm gonna just, they can go do whatever they want, with no consequences. And that's what happens is they think I only need to care about myself, so they're like, I don't really have, they'll be like, oh yeah, well, I'll help my town or whatever, my kingdom, but they won't, like if it came down to they had to, do something that, where they were, just like something where they had to do something, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care if you died, like, and the same thing with government though. It's like, yeah, they don't care if you die or whatever, they don't, with America, they don't care about, all they care about is during. They only care what you're doing. They don't care if, they don't love you enough to where they're like, even if this person didn't, like if they helped me, because the thing is, like with military, there's so many veterans that got their legs blown off or whatever, their arms, and then they can't fight. And what happens to them is they become homeless because they can't get a job because they don't have an arm or a leg. And what true love would be is that the government says, hey, you fought in battle, you you sacrificed a limb or whatever for us, so we're gonna keep on helping you, we're gonna keep you safe, we're gonna nurture you because you can't do it yourself. That's what real love is, not them saying, oh, we'll only help you while you're in the military. But that's not real love. Real love and real care would be, even though you can't do anything for us, like benefit us, we're still going to help you. And that's what God does. There's people out there who may not, like, because there's like, that's what the big thing of the rapture. I was thinking like, man, there's going to be people out there who were sinners their whole life, like bad, not like, well, sinners in the sense of they didn't believe in God, or they were just a bad Christian, they're lukewarm, whatever. And they'll go and realize they'll turn their life to God, and like 2 days later, after they turn their lives to God, the rapture happens. And even though they didn't do anything to help others get to heaven or whatever, God would say, hey, I know you, if you did have more time, you would have done it, you would have helped, you would have, and even at that, I may be wrong. God could say, he'd be like, okay, you actually turned your life into a Christian and all that, but you didn't help nobody. And he may be like, because yes, I know about the thing where it's like, when you're a Christian, you fruit or whatever, you bear fruit, or like, you make more Christians. But some people can't. Some people, they may turn their lives, the day before the rapture. And God's not going to be like, oh, you didn't bring anyone? Oh, well, it doesn't matter if you changed your life, you changed your ways. It doesn't matter, if you... I don't care that you were actually trying to build a relationship with me. I don't care. I'm going to send you to hell. He's going to be like, I saw that you are actually trying. I know you would have actually tried to help others get to heaven if you did have more time. That's what I believe. Now, I don't know if that's true. I hope it's true, because, like, I don't want to see people go to hell just because they were a day, they changed their lives a day before, it was too late. Because it says that it's never too late when you're alive. It's never too late until you die or the rapture happens. And people take that for granted. They're like, oh, well, if it's not going to be too late till I die or whatever, I'm just going to go do what I want, and then whenever I'm older, closer to death, I'm just going to, do what's right or whatever. Which is not the way you should be thinking. I remember, because yesterday I was talking to my mom, about something about Christian or whatever, Christianity or whatever. And I told her, I was like, Mom, you don't know if I'm going to die tomorrow. You don't know. I may die tomorrow. I may, get in a wreck tomorrow. I may, whatever. And it's true. I don't know if I'm gonna. I could die right now. I could have a heart attack and just die, or I could, something could happen where I just fall over, die. For all I know, someone could be coming to my house, and point a gun at me and shoot me in the head, you know. But I don't worry about that because I trust in God that no matter what happens, I'll always be with Him. I'll always, it's never going to be like a thing of I can only be with God whenever I'm alive. That's not true. Now, yes, if you were to not be a good Christian, then you're not going to be with Him. Because the thing about Christianity is it's a relationship. When you go to hell, it's not because, you weren't good enough or whatever. It was because you never wanted to be with Jesus and God at all to begin with. You never wanted to even try to have a relationship. You were just like, oh, I don't care about you, I don't care about God or whatever. And that's like one of the things about God's gonna either say I know you or I don't know you, because the thing is He'll know the people who talk to Him or whatever, would try to be in a relationship with Him. He knew them, but He never knew the people who were just like, just doing it either out of them, like, because there's people who will be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go help the homeless, not for God but for me or whatever, and they may not think that, but they're just like, I want to help the homeless because I want to better myself or whatever. And that's not what you should be doing. You shouldn't be doing it for yourself. You should never be doing anything for yourself. You should always be doing it for God, for the love of others. And I've had so much hate towards me, or just people not liking me, that I know what it's like to be absolutely just nobody likes me. I've had times where it felt like the only person I had was God. And in the moment, I was like, I wish I had more. Even right now, like, I'm not gonna lie, I wish I could have, everyone be my friend and still be a God, which just can't happen, because no matter, it's not me. I'm not the one that gets to choose your life. You are. I don't choose whether or not you want to be with God, but I'll always help and all that, so I don't choose whether or not, whatever, you choose whether or not you want to be with God. I'm just here to say, hey, what you may see may not be true, because you may hate God because you see of like, you think that God did something that he took something that you really loved, and you may hate Him because you're like, why did you take something I love so much? And I'm here to tell you that either He took something you really love because He knows what would happen if you still had it, that something worse may happen to you, or that it wasn't Him to begin with. Because especially with godly things, where if you're with someone or whatever, like you're with a Christian, and you're actually trying to get back on that, where you're trying to be a Christian, the devil may fill up your schedule. He may just make you not be able to be with them or whatever. And he may, make it look like it's God's fault, But no matter what, just always trust in God. I know it's hard, and sometimes you may not, you may be like, oh, I don't believe that this way is the right way, and that would be like God's way, whatever. You may not think that. But what I've learned is that no matter what, God is always going to do something in the best intentions for you and him, in the sense of he wants to put you through hardships or whatever. He wants to put you through, so much stuff, and he may want to, not because he doesn't love you, but because he wants you to be strong, so that, if something down the road happens, you're not going to be just defeated so much that you just give up and all that. So yeah, God will always love you. He will always do something in the best intentions for you to be closer to him, because that's all you should care about, is being with him. Yes, you can have other stuff that you're like, oh, I really like that, I really want to care about that. But at the end of the day, you should only care about God. And the thing about caring about God is that if you do it and you actually, care or whatever, like you actually want to just think about God, he's going to give you, and it may not be immediate. For all I know, I could be prioritizing God first, and I won't get whatever I want. I won't get what I want until like 5 years later down the road. I don't know that. But I do know that if you pray for it and you put God first, always, and he knows that if he gives that to you, you're still going to be his first priority. He's going to give it to you. Most likely. Because he wants you to be happy. He wants you to love life and to, just always be happy and all that. He doesn't want you to live in sadness. He may put you through sadness and all that, but he's doing that for something that you may not be able to see. Something that, he knows that if he were to, like, let's say, you ask a bunch of women out over and over again, and it's someone you actually are like, oh man, I'm really in love with them. Every time they say no or whatever, that could be God. But the reason why is because later down the road, you could have something where it's like, you're like, God, this is the woman, this is the person, and it not happen immediately, and you're like, oh, well then I guess they're not supposed to be the person. I guess not. And then for all you know, if you didn't go through that times where you asked other women out or men and they broke your hearts, you don't know that if that didn't happen, you could do something you would regret, or something that just, hurts. It'll hurt you so much that you'll hate God, thinking it's all his fault. He'll put you through that stuff just so you can be experienced, and so that it's not gonna go as bad. It's still gonna go bad. It still may hurt a bunch, but maybe if you didn't go through all those hard times, you would have not be here. You may have given up because of that one time where, you were like, oh man, God's not giving it to me, you may not be here. Because I can tell you times where I've fell in love with someone, told God, and then, or not even just told God, just, try and be with them. And they either break my heart, make fun of me like that. For instance, there's this one time where, I told a girl I liked her, or woman I liked her, whatever you want to say. But anyways, I told them I liked them, and they were like, oh, well, I like you back too, whatever, blah, blah, blah. When I told my friends, she denied it, said I'd never said that. And at the time, I was devastated. I was bawling my eyes out. I was crying because the thing about me is, growing up, I was always that kid that was only picked because it benefit someone else. Like during kickball, I was always picked because I was really good at it. Not because I was friends with anyone, but because I was just good at it. Or I remember when I was, like when Fortnite was still coming out and that was popular everywhere. Me growing up, I didn't have Fortnite because I had an Xbox and you had to buy Xbox Live, and I didn't have the money to buy it. And I remember just all the people at the table that I wanted to be friends with. They were talking about Fortnite and be like, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, you know what? We gonna play tonight." So yeah, I never got. And I still remember this one interaction where it was like they were talking about it, and I was trying to get in the conversation because I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to be heard or whatever. And I remember this one kid said, "Do you even play Fortnite? Have you even ever played it or whatever?" And in that moment, I just, I didn't know what to say. I was like, I don't, yeah, I guess so. Like, I lied because I wanted them to like me, because that was the big thing back then, whenever I was in elementary school, was that playing Fortnite. If you're playing Fortnite, you know, that's what everybody talked about. So it was like, if you're playing Fortnite, you would be able to talk to other people, because that's what basically everyone was talking about. Almost everyone. At least with the group I was around. But, yeah. God has put me through a lot in my life. He's put me through a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of struggles. I have struggled with suicide before, and if you are too, just call and just give it to God. Tell God, hey, I'm struggling. I want to off myself, whatever, and just give it time. God will always, he knows exactly what to do, to help you. And because the thing is like, say you are dealing with it, okay? And let's say, you're dealing with it, whatever. And, you ask God for help. God's not going to give you something that may help you in the long run or whatever, if he knows that if it was given to you, that you would just be more sad and be, actually do it. He's never going to do that. He will always give you what you need, and he will, he'll make sure it's all right. But the thing is the devil's a big thing, because that the devil, every time that God's gonna help you, the devil's gonna strike at you too. And he may make it look like it was God's fault, or he may just, actually no, I feel like that's the only thing he would ever do, is just make it look like it's God's fault, because he doesn't want to take the blame. He doesn't want to be like, oh yeah, I did that. So yeah, he's just gonna make it look like God. And in the moment, you may be like, is this God? But know that he's never going to do anything bad to you. Never. God will never hurt you if he knows that you can't handle it. He knows that if you were, something that bad would happen to you, that if he gave that to you, you would do something irrational or something you may regret. He'll never do that. In the sense of offing yourself or whatever, regret, whatever. But he'll never do that. The devil will. Because he knows that if you do, then you're going to go to hell. Because we don't know. If you off yourself, we don't know if you're going to hell. It just says, thou shalt not murder. And the only person that's allowed to take a life in the sense of it being not a sin is God. So if you took your own, that's basically saying you're basically offing yourself or murdering yourself. I don't know, because I don't really want to get striked or whatever. I may not be that big to where they may strike me or whatever, but I'm just trying to keep my words, good. But yeah, God will never do that. He loves you so much. He'll always love you. And he will never put you through something that you can't handle. If it does happen to something where you can't handle, it's not God, it's the devil. Always the devil. Because the thing is, nothing happens for coincidences. I know it may seem like that sometimes, or it's like you're like, oh, it's a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. Whether it's the devil's reason to get you away from God, or it's God's reason to get you closer to himself. Because that's the thing. It's a battle between God and the devil. The devil's just going to use, and the thing about the devil is he has so much stuff that he can use, because the thing about that is there's so much, it's so easy to sin. It's so easy to fall into sin. It's so easy to, just say I give up and just sit there, and you may still read the Bible, but you don't try. You're just being lazy. And, it's so easy. And that's the thing about the devil is he'll use everything. He'll use as much as he has to just to get you not to be with God, because he hates him that much. I don't know why he does. I wish I could ask him why, but the thing about that is you're not supposed to talk to the devil, ever. And I'm not going to admit, there's been times where I was just like, thinking, is this worth it? And I was like, hey devil, if you give me something, I'll quit being for God. But luckily, God put that down, where he made me realize what I was doing, and he said, Andy, what you're doing is wrong. Because I also remember a while ago, I said, God, I don't care if I don't want it, but make me a good Christian. Make me the Christian you want me to be. Make me the person you want me to be. I don't care if I hate it. I don't care what. And that's a big thing on me, was that he was doing that. Because even though I was like, being tempted and all that, God said, hey, he's like, hey, listen, you're falling. All right, I understand. I know you're going to fall, but hey, you got to get back up on here. You got to get back up on the horse. You got to get back up on the bull, or whatever you want to say. And I would be lying if I said that there's been times where he's done that, and I was like, every single time I'm like, okay, let me get back up on the horse, or the bull, or whatever. I'd be lying if I said that, because there's been times where God did say, hey, you gotta get back up, and I was like, no, I don't want to. And the thing about God is, he wasn't like, okay, I'm never gonna help you again. He was like, okay, he gave me time to where he knew that. He was like, then he was finally like, hey, gotta get back up, all right, He's not just gonna be like a one and done where he's like, okay, oh, you said no? Okay, then all right, bye. He's gonna be like, okay. He's gonna give you time, and then he'll help you again, because he loves you that much. He always will love you, and he always has. Before he even made time, before he even made heaven, he loved you. He knew about you before anything, And that's why I think it's also crazy, is that, God knows everything. He knows, what it's like. He knows what it's like not for him not to exist. He knows what it's like for the devil not to become a fallen angel. He knows all that. He knows every outcome, every decision. He knows every little thing. And I think that's crazy to think about. I think it's really crazy to think about how he knows every little thing. But yeah. It's been an hour. I'm not even going to probably, I'll probably not cut any of this out or whatever, because I don't really care if I make money on this. Or all I hope is that God doesn't let this thing, be taken down. And if it does, I'll just probably try again. I may not, hopefully I will. But yeah, so I'm going to say a prayer real quickly. Lord, I pray that you take the right people who would learn from this, and who would, grow with you because of this video. I don't care that it's my video. I wouldn't care what kind of video it is. I just want you to bring the right people to it. And I pray that you help them. You're always with them, and that you show them that you're always with them, that you show them how much you love them, and you show them how much what you are and what the devil is, so that they can see the difference between you and the devil. And I pray that the Holy Spirit is with them always, and that they're always they will never feel like it's over, that they can never get another chance. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Goodbye.